Welcome to the LifeStages Development Podcast, where host and owner of LifeStages Development, Steve Schamberger, brings you stories, experiences, and advice in business development and marketing. Now here's Steve with today's episode.
Hi, I'm Steve Schamberger, and this is the LifeStages Development Podcast, and we're broadcasting from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Here I have the privilege of not only interviewing my friend, but he's also my brother-in-law, Zach Kindrew. Zach, tell us a little bit about you, your company, and your background.
Sure. My name is Zach Kindrew. Grew up here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I went to Thaddeus Stevens School of Technology, got my degree there. It's a 2-year program, which was really great. And that allowed me to get out of school quicker. Mm-hmm. And then I got hired right out of school, worked for a small company doing custom home design for about 6 years. Yeah. And from there, I kind of felt like it was time to move on from that and started my own business about 7 years ago. And that's currently where I'm still at, thankfully.
Yeah. So what was that like, kind of taking that step into being like an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it was cool. It actually wasn't my plan. At the time, I was being mentored by a bunch of different guys, and I was seeking their counsel on how to grow the company that I was at. Not that that was a bad thing to do, but I think for them, they kind of kept coming back to the same question of, why don't you do your own thing? Yeah. So after a year and a half of most people looking at me the same way and saying the same thing, I thought maybe there's something to that. And that was sort of what led me then to eventually step out on my own.
So just real quick, for anyone that might not know, your company's Kindrew Home Design. Yep. And just share, maybe what a day it looks like in your shoes, the job responsibilities, what you get up to.
Sure. Yeah, it's super fun. So I do residential design, so new homes, additions, remodels. Basically every day is a little different. So I try to get in and at least check my emails, start some communication that way with customers, builders, whoever I'm working with at the time. Just make sure I'm answering their questions, and then sort of get into the day from there, trying to figure out what projects take precedence or need the most work. So a lot of designing, and then a lot of checking in on communication with engineers, builders, people that throughout the day are calling in and want to talk about their projects as well. So it's kind of a jumble of things, and it's hard to stay focused a lot of days, but it's super fun.
Yeah. So how long have you been running your own business?
So I went out on my own, it would have been December of 2016. So the end of the year will actually be 8 years, which is crazy. Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah. Almost 8 years.
Man, I feel like you lied to me. I thought you started in May of 2016.
No, I think, is that when you started?
Yeah.
Oh, you got me beat.
I always tell everyone we started the same month.
We can. That doesn't matter to me. I can change it. That's fine.
Yeah. But that's kind of cool. I kind of started LifeStages in May of 2016. Kind of, what's it like taking that step? I mean, it's different. Not everyone can do it. It's a little bit of a risk. And I know you shared about you were working with a lot of people that were like, hey, why aren't you doing this on your own? So what being an entrepreneur, what's that like?
It's funny. I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. Yeah. I think growing up, even as a child, I always knew that I wanted to do something with residential design, but never thought about actually owning a business. Yeah. So I think for me, it was very eye-opening when these guys that I really respected kept asking me why I didn't consider doing it, which I think was encouraging to me to actually kind of go after that. But it's a fun world to be in. You create what you want your workday to look like, what you want your business to look like. And I think that's the coolest blessing of it all, is there's really no format you have to follow. And I think with design, I love the creative part of that. So being an entrepreneur allows me to have that creativeness as well with building a business. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think as myself being an entrepreneur, there's some really great stuff. There's also some really challenging things. Yeah. You have work flexibility in your schedule a lot of times, but if you're not doing a lot, if you're not always growing, then you're not gonna have cash flow to pay bills, to grow. Yeah. So there's a give and take about there's a lot of freedom and flexibility, but on the other sense, everything depends on us. I mean, we're still relatively small, so I can be in on, hey, I'm trying to do the business development, the sales, doing existing client work, doing the accounting, doing everything, running the books. We wear all the hats, and I think sometimes that can be difficult. Not a lot of people know what it entails. It's not just doing your job responsibility.
Yeah.
It's doing the job responsibility for the entire company.
Absolutely. I think that's a good thing to think about too, is which I didn't realize, obviously, going out on my own. I thought, oh, this would be great. I get to sit and design houses all day long and listen to music, and nobody will bother me, and I don't have to do anything else. And that was a very
eye-opening.
Yeah, eye-opening experience once I actually got out, because then, like you said, it's like, oh, I actually have to do my bookkeeping to make money. I didn't realize that was a thing. I thought people just sent you checks because they liked you, but unfortunately, that's not how it works.
For the process.
Yeah. So, so it is. It's interesting, even growing and having to learn how to do a lot of the different things. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest things for me as an entrepreneur is learning stuff new all the time to be able to continue to grow and succeed at what you're doing. But that was really the biggest, I mean, as you mentioned, eye-opener for me. It was like, holy cow, I'm not just designing houses anymore. I'm actually building a company. So
it's a lot of difficulty in it and a lot of stress, but there's a lot of reward in doing it all. I remember one of the biggest moments for me that was really like gratifying was when I wrote myself the first check and I signed it on the front and I signed it on the back, and it was a proud moment, but it was also a huge blessing to be able to kind of do what we do. You referenced a little bit about building a company, growing a company. How have you done that?
Well, again, being honest, the first few years, I think it was more the Lord's blessing in my life than anything. I didn't know what that looked like. I was essentially just getting out on my own, trying to build a foundation of clients to work with and go from that perspective. Luckily, some of the ones that I had worked with at the company that I started out at had actually followed me once I had separated, so I had a small client base to start from. But for me, the biggest thing was referrals. It was just working hard, treating people well, and then them basically promoting or saying, hey, you should work with him if you have any kind of need for new homes and additions and all that. So that really was the majority of it. Now I'm 7 years in, and I'm actually strategically looking at growing a business. But I can't say that I did anything overly productive the first few years other than work hard and treat people well.
Yeah, but I think that's key. I think if you have built a business to where you're at now, and I think they say, like, if you get past the first 3 to 5 years, like, you're going to succeed, whatever that succeeding looks like.
Oh, yeah.
But you've been able to treat people well. You're a good communicator, and you're really good at what you do.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you.
No, I mean, that's the truth, and I think that all bears fruit. Into being able to be here, the 7 years in December, and continuing to grow, because Kindrew Home Design is a growing company.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the other thing, is I actually just hired my first employee 3 months ago, which is something I never even fathomed. But I think with just the growth and knowing where I'd like to keep going, it sort of was obvious that I would need a team to allow me to continue to take that next step and grow the business. So. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's cool, but now that's also why I'm being more strategic with the growth, because obviously having a little more overhead, it needs to businesses grow to accommodate for that. So, but I'll say this: the funny thing is, I'll tell a quick story. When I was actually working at the previous company that I was at, I had gotten connected with an engineer. I didn't know who he was. He was actually hired by a customer that I was working with. They had brought the engineer in, and I had very minimal communication with him. And I'd sent him an email one time, and he responded, and I was a little surprised with the response, because I thought he was sort of, I had a grammatical error basically in my email, and he pointed it out when we were talking.
A little bit.
When we were talking about houses, and he was basically telling me I used the wrong word, and I thought you're an engineer, not a teacher of language. But anyway, but the funny thing about that is, so fast forward now, is I met him almost 10 years ago. And I thought, this guy's an idiot. I don't want to work with him. I don't like him. I don't want anything to do with him. And now he's probably my favorite engineer to work with. And also is probably the biggest referral service that I have, because he's been around for so long and has so many connections, and people call him all the time. And the blessing for me is, since I've established a relationship with him, he now almost exclusively refers most of his customers to me. If there's some sort of a design piece that needs to be done, he'll handle the engineering, but he doesn't want anything to do with the design. So they call him, and most of his responses, I understand, he tells me, is, oh, we got to call Zach. So that's the blessing, is he's referring people to me, and I don't even have to go out and find the clients.
So you're talking about relationships.
Yeah.
And it's something that we talk about a lot on different episodes that we've had with Life Stages, is how important the relationship is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've just explained it, but I mean, it seems like relationships have been huge for Kindrew Home Design's growth, and for you to create these relationships, maintain these relationships, then they've actually built your company because you've been able to build the referral base through the relationships.
Absolutely, and even just to be able to have people that I can turn to for wisdom and help, and that's the other thing. I mean, I started out on my own, but there was a small group of people, essentially close friends and people that I trusted, who helped me start and get myself established to the point that I could grow from there. So I would say 50% of what I do is probably relationship based.
Yeah.
Some of it's the skills that you have to do, the technical abilities, and there's some other pieces to it, but majority of it is relationships and establishing healthy ones with people who are going to continue to help you grow. So that's definitely, and I think I'm better at that sometimes than I am probably growing my business, but I guess they can help one another.
No, I think you're absolutely good at that. I mean, obviously you're a talented home designer, but I think being relational and being able to build those relationships is something that it's been vital for you in your business. Absolutely. And you do a great job with it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. What do you think is one of the biggest or greatest obstacles that you have, either in your day-to-day, it can be with your design work, or it can be growing your business, or just having your own business?
Sure. I'll say personally for me, it's probably the fear of failure. I have been blessed in my life, although I don't take many risks. So, but very blessed, and life has been pretty good. So I haven't had too many large failures or setbacks where I've had to really overcome a lot of things. And I think now I'm at a point where I'm comfortable. But I don't know that being comfortable is necessarily a good thing. And I'm ready to take the next step and sort of that leap of faith, if you will. And so for me, that's sometimes the hardest thing, is just being willing to get after it, not being afraid to fail, and just having fun while I'm doing it too.
I think, and that's so true. I think there's so many people that would kind of share that being the biggest obstacle that they have is the fear of failure. I think I was in a sales meeting one time, and this was like probably the best advice I had ever gotten. But like I was in this really weird situation where I was in a sales meeting. I was thinking I was going to lose my job. My brother had just gotten hired, and he couldn't be my boss. So they were either going to have to move me. I thought, are they going to fire me? I didn't know what was going to happen. But they didn't know that I knew that information, because like my brother told me that, and he said something's coming. So I went into this meeting, kind of with an attitude like, what's going on? And it was like the second highest sales rep, like the VP of sales was doing the interview, and the GM, and they were kind of talking, and the meeting wasn't going well, and we were kind of butting heads, because I was like, what's my future here with this company? And the guy told me the best piece of advice. It was leverage everything you can for the next step. He's like, be it the sales training you get here, be it the experience, be it everything. And it really has, and I actually went on to have a good relationship with the sales guy, the vice president, and we actually did some ride-alongs, and I really respected him then. But what I also put into that leveraging experience is failure. Sure. If you don't leverage failure, then it can eat at you. We talked about in another episode of rejection and how to overcome that. But man, if you can reinvent failure as learning, and then like nothing's truly failure, I think that's the perspective you almost have to take on it. Because we can fail and be like, oh man, I'm an idiot. Or we can leverage that for the next opportunity so that we can be better. So that's just something that had stuck with me. A little bit long-winded story, but about leveraging every aspect, be it losses, failures, wins, trainings, whatever it is. So there's something just to keep in mind if we can re-examine the way that we perceive failure. So that's unfortunately the best way to learn.
Oh, for sure.
And to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I've heard that so many times as well, and I think it's like mentally I know that, but there's this piece of like, once you've established your business and it's sort of grown a little bit, and you want to hold so tightly to like, I don't want to go backwards. But then again, it's like sometimes having a little bit of a, backstepping, and then that way it allows you to go forward even farther. So I think that's part of the thing where I'm like, I need to just let go of that a little bit and just allow myself to take the chance of, I want to grow and see how I can do that. And if there's some, troubles along the way, we'll kind of navigate and deal with it when we get there. So
if you had advice for someone starting their own business, what would that be?
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned before about being an entrepreneur, you wear all the hats, which is okay starting out, and you have to. But I think the biggest thing is you grow, and I'm still guilty of this now, but as you're growing, see what you can offload. I mean, the more time you have to focus on like the thing that you're good at, the thing that makes you money, the more margin of income you can create. And then that way, hopefully you can offload a lot of the other things like the bookkeepings and the administrative stuff or whatever it might be. But that would be something I would also recommend as you can grow, is allow yourself to have more time to focus on the things that you're best at that are also going to help your company be healthy and grow and generate income.
That's really good. I just recently, I think it was this week, I saw it was a big influencer, media influencer, and they said that what's killing companies from scaling is waiting too long to hire. And that's something that hit me right in the heart, because we're kind of in that space, like, when do we hire? So we're going through that. I feel like you guys are a little bit in front of us on that. But really good, and that's a good piece of advice.
And I can speak to the waiting too long too. That's took me about 1.5 years to hire my first employee, and I'm pretty sure I should have done it within the first 6 months. But you live and learn, and again, I think at least it allowed me to really process and get through all the fine-tuning and planning for having an employee, and it's been a huge blessing. I mean, now it really has opened up the bandwidth to be able to, again, delegate tasks and projects and all that kind of fun stuff. So definitely nice to have that extra help. So consider it.
I know I am. If people want to get in touch with you, they want to know more about Kindrew Home Design, kind of give us a plug, what your services are, where they can find you.
Yeah, so we do full custom homes. I mean, you can come to us with a picture or nothing, and we will design you a beautiful custom home that is fit to your needs. But we also do additions and remodels to your existing home. So if you've been in your house for many years and you want to make the most of that and be there for the rest of your life, we can put in, in-laws quarters, additions, whatever it is. So anything residential essentially is the sweet spot that we get into.
Excellent. And online website?
Yes, so it's kindrewhomedesign.com. And then we're on Instagram, same idea, Kindrew Home Design. And I think there's a Facebook page still floating around out there. If that's still relevant, I don't know. But I think it's the same thing, Kindrew Home Design. I don't know what's on there.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I really appreciate it. So guys, if you have a chance, if you're interested, check out Zach and Kindrew Home Design. They are the premier builders, home designers, I should say, not builders, premier home designers in Lancaster County. Really appreciate you, Zach. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
This is another episode of LifeStages Development Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the LifeStages Development Podcast. Follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And check out our website, lifestagesdevelopment.com, for ways to work together.